And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Fired Up. Now, this is a game in which you are watching these fighters in an arena fighting each other in battle, and you're betting on which one will do something. Now, it's a little bit different than you might think. There's been games before where you're like, I want this one to win, I want this one to lose. In this one, sometimes you want one to win and one to lose, but you're saying, I want this one to punch this one in this exact way. If that sounds strange, it is strange. It's also a strange cover. I usually like the Miko's artwork a lot. This is kind of a weird art. I don't think that this would make me buy the game. But the theme is one I like a lot. I love arena-based combat games where you're kind of betting on them. And this one has that unique idea of, let's bet on how something happens. I don't know how that will work. Well, actually, I do know how it works because I played the game. But when I first heard about it, I said, I don't know how that will work. And you might be saying that too. Let's find out. At the beginning of the game, you're going to pick 5 fighters that are going to be in the arena fighting against each other. The game comes with 6, although there are expansions to add more, so you can have up to 12 different fighters, but you're only going to use 5 per game. Each fighter is placed in a spot. They all have this base, which is pointing, and they're going to point it at the person to their left, so they're all pointing at the person to their left. Now, each of these characters has several things going on. They have a certain number of hit points that they're going to have here. They can also take 3 wounds before they die. This shows how many times they can be activated in a given turn. This is the morale, so the morale is going to go up or down. And the special ability here. So for example, this, when they do a kick damage, it's going to do 2 damage to the opponent. And then over here is how strong their attack is, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how strong their defense is, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there is a speed. This is just to show who goes first at the beginning of the game, although that can change. And you can see the stats on this character are quite a bit different, and they're all going to have different stats and different special abilities. Now, once again, to clarify, you are not playing as any of these characters. They're all going to be fighting. This fighting is going to take place over 4 rounds. What players are doing is they're going to be drawing some cards. You're going to have 4 cards, and you're going to pick 2 each round that you want to happen. So, for example, I might pick Wallop. Wallop means a fighter does a wound. If that happens, I'm going to get 3 points. And if they do a wound to someone who has neutral morale, I get 5 more points. And if it happens in the very first fight, 8 points. So that's how each game is here. The fighter with the lowest speed has the most stamina at the end of a round. Fighter with the low speed has at least 3 more stamina than anyone else, 6 points. At least 1 fall and 1 red fail. If 1 fail, 1 blue and 1 red fail are rolled in the same fight, I get 4. And if less than 2 damage is dealt in the fight, I get 6. So you're going to pick which 2, and then you're going to try to attempt to make that happen. Each player has 6 influence dice, and you're going to take turns rolling your dice, and then you can pick any number of dice and re-roll them. But then you're going to pick 1 or more dice of the same action, use that action, and then it goes around the table and it comes back to you, you re-roll your dice. Or you can discard a die and have nothing happen. So you have to pick which one you want to do. Whenever a player uses an action dice, they can use multiple dice in the character in the same turn, they're going to move this down, and when it gets down to 0, you'll move it up there. No more dice can be played on that character on that turn. This die here lets you adjust, increase their attack or defense. Pretty simple. You just move it up to the next level when you play those. And by the way, there's a 2 times, and you can just multiply that and use it on another die if you want to. These thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on which way you want to use them, are going to affect morale. At the end of a round, if the number of thumbs up and thumbs down is the same, nothing happens. Otherwise, it's going to cause the morale to move up or down. Now, why does this matter? Well, when you are fighting, your morale is going to cause this to come down to wherever it is. I can't be in this top level here with a 5 or 6 attack or a 5 defense unless my morale is high. So morale will affect your attack and defense. This die is speed. When you play this on somebody, you're going to exchange their speed with the next one. So for example, this person's going 3rd. Now they'll switch with the 2nd place. And if someone wants to switch with them, they're going to have to spend 2 speed. This die here lets you move somebody to have them point and attack a different character, or you can, and that's just spending it, or you can place it here, which locks them in position, so you can't, so someone else can't move them, although you can spend 2 of those lock spots to get rid of that, to undo that. And then finally, the last one here is social. Social can be used in a couple ways. You can spend 2 of them to just change the die to whatever you want and use it. You can also save your socials. So if you roll social, you can get rid of it and just keep one of these tokens. And finally, you can place a bet on a fighter. This is the scoreboard, and at the beginning of the game, you're going to put a couple cards here, early, mid, late cards. And each player has cards that match the different players in the game, the different characters. So if I think, for example, Rex's will be the first fighter eliminated from the game, I can put this down by spending one of those social dice. Now, when I do this, I'm going to place it here based on what round it is. And if I'm correct, I'm going to get a certain number of points, and also the earlier you do it, the more points you get. Once everyone is finished with spending all their dice, then it's time for the fights to begin. Starting with the person with the highest speed and going around a table, each person's going to roll a certain number of attack dice, these red dice, against their target, who will roll a certain number of defense dice based on where their numbers are. When rolling the dice, the attack dice are hitting different parts of the body. So for example, I've hit the head, this time I hit the head 4 times. And my opponent blocked the head twice. I hit the foot 1 time and they blocked the arm. So this doesn't do anything. This lets 1 damage get through. This lets 2 more damage get through. However, because I went even above and beyond that, I also do a wound. Wounds and damage are different. I really don't understand it, folks. Don't ask me to explain it, but for some reason, they have 2 different tracks here, damage and wounds. If you take 3 wounds, you're eliminated. Well, most characters, if they take 3 wounds, are eliminated. Or if you get a certain number of damage, you're eliminated. Now, there are some special attacks. Special attacks can't be blocked except by a special defense, which can block anything. And then, of course, there's a blank side on each die, which is a fail. It's a single roll. Bloom, bloom. And then you go on to the next person's roll, and so on. Although, again, like here you see, if I hit your foot, I'm going to do an extra 2 damage. And then there's different special abilities on each of the characters. Once all the characters are done fighting, possibly eliminations, who knows what happens, then we go to the next round. After 4 rounds of this, whoever has the most points, based on who you bet on, based on you fulfilling your cards, and this will be at the end of each round, you're going to show your cards to see if they happened. Oh, I've dashing blows. 2 speeding fighters target each other, and both had good morale. I got 6 points. You know, whatever the cards might be, you'll score those cards over the course of the round, score your stuff at the end of the game. Whoever has the most points is the winner. I like to start out the components by talking about this. Now, this is a game tray insert. I'm actually not happy with it for a couple reasons. First of all, and I'm not going to do it here, but if you fill this with dice, you can't get those dice out unless you have, I don't know, put a piece of cardboard in there or turn the box upside down, which is we all know is annoying. Now, this game tray also has spots for all the expansion stuff. That's fine, although it's kind of annoying if you buy this and open it and find that there's 5 fighters missing. But here's what's not good. When you put these cardboard things in, when you put the extra ones in, there's not enough space for those. So it's weird that they provided the spots for the miniatures, but not for the player boards. You're going to be asking so many questions over this game about what the different symbols mean and all the different things. The art is fine. I don't mind this alien artwork. I tend to like his artwork on many different things, but these cards don't feel like they match. Like, this is ignoring the small fries. Oh, okay. Dominance. Well, that one makes a little bit more sense. Diversity? Why? What does that even mean? It's just some oddities there. The dice are okay, but I don't think the symbols on the blue dice are really that useful. And yeah, the miniatures, I guess this is what a lot of people are going to want to know about. The miniatures are on a stand here, which is okay. I mean, it's for the purpose of the game. They're fine. You know, they're fairly easy to tell apart. You know, I'm going to probably be able to tell this giant robot versus this guy who's really fast apart, but they're not moving on the board either. The board is fine. I think it's way too colorful for what it is. Seeing stuff on the board isn't quite so easy. Yeah, I think the components are okay. Man, Fired Up has so many issues with it that it go far beyond just the artwork and the components, and that's minor stuff compared to the game itself. There's so many facets of this game that sound really good to me. Roll dice, use those, re-roll if you want to, use those dice to pick actions. Fantastic. Arena fighters fighting each other, each with special abilities. Cool. You get to pick what you want an arena fighter to do. I like it. Bet on an arena. Good. I mean, you would think this all stuff is all good for me anyway, but when you put it together, it's terribly mundane. And really, the game can come down to one word: lucky! Because that's what the game is. There's just so much luck in the game. So you have this card that says, okay, let's just grab some of these cards here. So let's say I have a card that says, at least 2 fighters have positive morale and no fighters have negative morale. Okay, that's one I think I can pull off. So I roll my purple dice. I get no morale symbols. All right, I re-roll them. Still no morale symbols. Fine, I'll do something else. Now let's say I do get the morale symbols and I put more high morale on one player. And you're like, and someone else is like, I don't want that player to win. I don't want their morale to be good. So they make that person's morale go down. That's the big problem with this. I want this person to have good morale. This person, I want the person with the lowest attack to do a damage. Well, first of all, it's kind of hard to do, but I don't know what you're doing. There's so many different cards. I have no concept of what you're trying to make happen when you place dice. All I know is what I'm doing. And what we are doing might be cross purposes. It might not be. And I just find that to be just so, I'm placing dice and trying to make things happen, but I don't know. And that's the second problem here, is the fights are just like, roll dice and see what happens. It doesn't matter what else you do over the rest of the course of the game. All you can do is maybe give them more red or less red, but it still just might not happen. Then this whole wound and damage thing, who thought that was a good idea? You know what this whole game feels like? It feels like somebody played it, and they loved it, and they kept playing it, and they kept adding stuff. They kept adding new, different ways to do different things, and put them all together, and when it came down to it, it wasn't very, there's just too much going on. I think new people, when they come into this, are going to go, because I'm rolling dice, using these to do different actions. We do that, we do that, we do that. Then we have 5 fights. By the way, game is too long and too boring in many ways, because we all place dice. Then we fight 5 different times. We have to look up in the rule book to see what happens, because this wound and attack thing is a messy system. And then the betting on the characters, again, it's total crapshoot. You're just betting and hoping that whatever it says, that happens. It might or might not. And then if it does happen, you get a few points. And having these cards, sometimes they don't happen, sometimes they do. If I have both my cards go off, and you have none of your cards go off, I am so far ahead of you, you might as well quit the game, and we've only gone through 1/4. Now, maybe on the second round, both of your cards will happen, and neither one of mine will, but this game is exhausting. There's so much! And yet, when it comes down to it, nothing what you do really matters. Why am I locking someone in a position pointing at somebody when you can spend 2 dice and move it out of position? And why would I spend 2 dice and move it out of position when at the end of the day I don't really care? I don't know. I think, when I talk about it, when I went over the rules, it's very possible you saw this and you thought, that sounds interesting. I agree. I went over the rules and I thought, this sounds pretty good. But it didn't play well at all. I was constantly sitting there going, okay, what does this symbol mean again? People kept asking, so how does morale work? What if morale's tied? That's right, every time you put it, you roll your dice. You re-roll your dice. You put your dice on somebody. Can I use 2 different dice on someone? No, you can't. I put dice on somebody. Can I then move this action marker down 1? I then do that thing. Now it's your turn. You roll, but I did something that changed what you wanted to happen. It just feels like a slog. Arena should be fast, fun, furious, and entertaining. None of that is in Fired Up. I think I'm harder on this game than I would be normally, because I wanted it to be so good, because it sounded like such a cool concept. But when it comes down to it, it's just a game that I felt was too much going on, and all that extra stuff doesn't add strategy, doesn't add tactical plays, doesn't add cool, wow, I can't believe that happened. None of that's in this game. You just spend a bunch of purple dice, then you roll to see what happens in attacking, and you go, oh, glad I wasted my turn this time. This is a pass for me. Fired up. I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching the Dice Tower. Dice Tower Judgment, love the idea, don't like the execution.